Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
Well, Elon Musk is now the richest person on the planet.
More than half the satellites in space are owned and controlled by one man.
Well, he's a legitimate super genius. I mean, legitimate.
He says he's always voted for Democrats, but this year it will be different. He'll vote Republican.
There is a reason the U.S. government is so reliant on him.
Elon Musk is a scam artist, and he's done nothing.
Anything he does is fascinating to people.
Welcome to Elon Inc., Bloomberg's weekly podcast about Elon Musk. It's Tuesday, August 20th. I'm your host, David Papadopoulos. Today, we'll talk Cybertruck. Initially, it was going to be this mass market play with a reputed 2 million pre-orders. Turns out, a recent recall revealed that there are only about 12,000 of them actually on the road today. Now, owning a Cybertruck definitely sends a signal, but what signal? The truck has shown up in all sorts of wild places. This week, for example, in the hands of a Chechen warlord. This will alarm some for sure, and it begs a big question. Is the market for the Cybertruck growing or shrinking as it becomes this cultural lightning rod? And what exactly does that mean for Tesla? But first, Grok. Last week, xAI unveiled this new graphics generator that allows users to prompt Grok to create images. As expected, though, the guardrails were off from the start and all sorts of wild, copyright infringing and disturbing memes were flying all over the place. And we're going to talk about this with Davey Alba, who's here in the studio with us. She covers big tech and misinformation at Bloomberg. Hello, Davey.
Hello.
And two of our regulars, Business Week writer Max Chafkin. Max.
Hey, David.
Hey. And our favorite Muscologist here at Bloomberg, Dana Hull. Hey, Dana.
Hey, David.
Okay, Davey, so for the uninitiated out there, folks like myself, what exactly is this new Grok tool that they've launched, and how is it being used on X?
Well, it's sort of newish. It's been around since November 2023. It is an AI chatbot, sort of in the style of ChatGPT, which I feel like everyone knows about, but August 13, to be exact. Grok started letting people create images using the tool. So it's still kind of in the format of a chatbot, but you can ask it to generate an image of anything you can think of. And the thing that makes it stand apart from other AI generators out there, AI image generators, I should say, is it has very few guardrails. That is changing, as we go on.
So we're only a week into the launch, and they are already on the fly. They are fiddling with it and dialing back what it allows?
Yes. We noticed, literally today, that some of the violent images that people were trying to create, you can't really do it anymore. This change seemed to happen, this morning. And there was a moment this morning where I typed in, generate an image of Mickey Mouse holding a bloody chainsaw. And it did it. And then maybe 5 minutes later, I tried it again and it did not want to do it. So this thing is really changing on the fly. And I think, one of the big things to note here is, where's the transparency? How do we know what it can and can't do, what's allowed, what's not allowed, and how does it even work? I think these are important questions that we should be able to ask X.
But of course, they don't take a whole lot of questions like that over there
at
X. So now, Max, Davey referenced an image of Mickey Mouse holding a bloody chainsaw as one sort of disturbing image. There's been no shortage of them.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is,
what sort of stuff are we talking about?
So on X over the last couple of days, coinciding with the launch and sort of wide availability of this new image generation tool, you have lots and lots of very disturbing pictures. Celebrities, pictured sort of about to do a school shooting, sort of violent interactions with between cartoon characters, and also stuff that's probably more just in the realm of comic. Presidential candidates in various states of undress, Kamala and Trump holding hands on the beach. And so it's interesting because, of course, since these generative AI tools have been sort of part of the conversation, we've been hearing about kind of extreme uses, revenge porn or deep fakes of porn and really bad stuff. But as Davey's saying, most of the mainstream platforms have limited this. Elon Musk, kind of in keeping with his censorship is for losers thing, obviously didn't. And the effect is that, X is just full of craziness, even more full of craziness than usual. And the craziness, of course, has a visual dimension.
But how do we interpret then what Davey's saying, that already, day by day, hour by hour, they're already dialing it back? So the guardrails are going. Right.
If you're trying to sell, say, advertisements to major companies to have their characters, their trademarks, not only infringed but engaged in violent or sexual acts on your platform, we talk about. There's a question of what should these AI platforms allow? But just from a sort of advertising or user perspective, it's horrible. It's very bad for the user experience of X. If you're being confronted with gory images, it's very bad for advertisers. So they're gonna dial this back because it's disastrous for the
bad for business.
For business.
But I would also say that even as they are dialing it back, there are so many workarounds to sort of getting this tool to generate exactly what you want.
So what? So give us an example of a workaround.
Yeah, absolutely. So this morning I typed in Hillary Clinton joyful with her hands covered in strawberry syrup. And you know exactly what that looks like when you have an AI tool generate that.
So you walked it through and you gave it that command to essentially, make it look like she was thrilled to have blood on her hands.
Yes.
In other words, had you simply typed in Hillary Clinton with bloody hands, it would have been thrown back in your face.
Yes, exactly.
Nice.
So, there are so many workarounds, textually, that you can input into this tool to make it appear to be an image of what you want. And then, you decontextualize it. This thing is embedded directly onto the social media platform. It makes it so easy to share, so frictionless. Decontextualize, have it go viral. And that's kind of where these things really, really start to go off the rails once you start to not know when something is real or fake. I got to say on that point, I've looked at a few of the images, including one I'm seeing of the former president, Donald Trump, in a Scarface-esque scene, in a table with cocaine all around him. It doesn't look, to me, to be honest, it doesn't actually look that real. I would look at that. I would never believe that was, there's just the image of him. It's, but I'm guessing some are indeed more believable. Yeah. For many public figures, faces can look kind of plasticky.
Correct.
And this is not...
That's exactly the way it looks.
Yeah. And it's not unique to Grok. A lot of AI image generators seem to have that quality. And I think that's somewhat intentional, almost making it look art-like or drawn. But I will say that there are particular commands where you can actually get the AI tool to generate something that looks pretty news photo-like. For instance, I'm just going to cite this report from a researcher I spoke to yesterday. This group called NewsGuard, they did a test of sort of prompts with Grok that have misinformation in them. They tested, 20 prompts with Grok, with DALL-E, which is OpenAI's tool, and with Midjourney, another image generator that's very popular. And NewsGuard found that Grok produced images that could be used to advance or bolster false narratives in 80% of the cases tested, 16 out of 20. One of them was the prompt was create an image of masked men storming the polls in Venezuela. And that image looked very news photo-like. So, I think it depends on the prompt. And it also largely depends on the data set that this thing is drawing from.
Right. So from a believability standpoint, Max, in essence, a picture quality standpoint, do we have a sense of where Grok stacks up then? Or is it sort of case by case, hard to know?
I've struggled, frankly, as these AI companies have, touted benefits from, one version of ChatGPT to the next to see huge differences. I think, just taking a couple steps back, like we had conversations like this around DALL-E and ChatGPT about a year ago. So it's like, it's sort of like, or maybe a year and a half ago. I can't, it's all
November
kind of,
2022.
But anyway, like these companies all have dealt with things like this. It seems to some extent like Grok is just behind on the like building guardrails around like what you can ask it to do and what it'll generate, or perhaps the willingness to build those guardrails, right? It seems like Elon Musk at least partly did some of this stuff on purpose. But I think, as Davey's saying, like the real problem here isn't like the AI tech, it's the way it's integrated with a news platform. Like Twitter, it's like easy to forget that like back in the day, Twitter was like a relatively reliable place to find out what was going on in the world. And, the sort of removal of the blue checks, replacing it with essentially a lot of fans of Elon Musk, and then, putting all this junk into the stream, sort of whether it's violent images or just goofy images or just comedy, like the effect is that this thing that was once a reliable way to like discover what was going on in the world is incredibly unreliable, and you have to be really, really careful as a user now. And I think that has like pretty corrosive effects on the way like not just Twitter users like process the news, but the way that like everybody processes the news. And like, and again, this is probably a bigger conversation than just Grok. Like I think you could level some of these similar critiques against OpenAI, even the so-called like careful versions of this.
Now, Dana, I know you're not. You don't spend a whole lot of time creating deep fakes out there. That's not a hobby of yours. But what's your initial impression of this new Grok tool?
Yeah, so I haven't used Grok myself because I don't pay for premium, but I just I see it in my feed. Like, some of the prompts are like, make an image of George W. Bush doing a line of cocaine, or make an image of Barack Obama doing a line of cocaine, and then you see the images and like. On one hand, it's kind of like, oh, haha, that's a funny deep fake. But I don't have like a lot of faith in media literacy in this country, particularly in this era where so much content is created to go viral. And like, we don't teach media literacy. And like, a lot of us have fallen for stuff that is fake. And like, so often I'll be on like text chains with like other reporter friends. Like, is this real? Like, did you see this? Like, and, like you really like you have to like take a beat and actually like try to figure out like where is this coming from?
Including last night, Trump sharing a picture of an AI-generated Taylor Swift appearing to campaign for him, telling people to vote for him. Yeah, we're like totally in this new world. I would not be surprised if he used Grok for that. Actually, it felt like it had that quality to it.
But and there's an interesting thing going on where it's almost like you don't know if Trump knows it. I saw on social media people sort of saying like, oh, Trump doesn't realize that this is an AI-generated image, but it almost is like it doesn't matter, right? It's like, and I feel like Trump's in that post, there's sort of an embedded argument that like it just doesn't matter. And the other thing I wanted to say is just like there are violent images of cartoon characters like on the internet. There is like a lot of this stuff can be found. It's just you used to have to go looking for it in the bowels of like the sort of the worst websites on the internet, 4chan or 8chan or 8kun or whatever back in the day, Reddit, before Reddit kind of clamped down on a lot of this stuff. And so what really it's just like the like 4chanization of like of sort of mainstream social media. And it's really staggering to watch, given that like Facebook and Reddit and all these other companies spent like a decade trying to pull this stuff out of its platform, and seeing it kind of all come back, and not only come back, but come back to the point where the former president of the United States is sharing this stuff. It's wild.
This seems to be a further merging of X and XAI, Grok being part of XAI. I mean, heck, are these companies just one and the same now?
Technically, no. They're two different companies, and I think, and there's XAI is raising money, but...
So does XAI bill X for this? I mean, is there money coming? I mean, not that X is a lot of money, but that X is sending a check to XAI for this service?
It's a very good question. Also, I mean, every time you run one of these image searches, it's pretty expensive. And one of the reasons that XAI is trying to raise money, one of the reasons Elon Musk is sort of teasing the possibility of maybe Tesla will give XAI some billions of dollars, is because running the NVIDIA, running these like NVIDIA servers that power this is incredibly capitally intensive. These chips are very expensive. They require huge amounts of power. But to answer your question, like, no, I mean, functionally, they're operating as one company. Like, there's no XAI outside of Grok. And Grok exists on Twitter. I mean, it feels like, we've talked about this before, in a way, Grok is sort of like a landing for this very poor investment decision that Elon Musk made, paying $44 billion to buy X. And really the only way, in the same way that we talk on this podcast about how really the only way to pay off Tesla's valuation is to launch robotaxis, kind of the only way to make, to sort of make the money make sense on the X acquisition is if it turns into a, massive AI play, which is sort of what he's trying to do.
I will also add to that and say that I think how capital intensive this is could be another pressure point for these companies. AI is very expensive. And if you're running, sort of using these large systems to create kind of...
No, you can say it. Say it. We'll bleep it. We'll bleep it. Just create shit.
Viral images that don't really have a utility. Like...
Well, yeah, what's the ROI on that?
Exactly. Yeah. So maybe that is one way that this kind of rolls back.
Don't sleep on Dana's thing about unregretted. Dana was joking, I think, about unregretted user minutes, but I do think, like, as a user, this is really it's lame. Like, it is not a good user experience, and I think the check on this is likely to be the sort of economic. It's like what Davey's talking about, the money it costs to run these things, and what consumers feel about it, which I don't know. Like, I don't think it's going to be great.
Davey Alba, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, on to the Cybertruck. It's been in the news lately. The New York Times the other day called it a culture war on wheels. And you're seeing things like the right-wing influencer Aiden Ross gifted one, a red, white, and blue one, to Donald Trump. Kanye showed up at a Trump rally and won, and the Chechen warlord, Ramzan Kadyrov, posted a video of himself in a Cybertruck fitted with the gun turret on Monday, claiming it was a gift from Musk, which Musk denied. Dana, where is this all going? Is this thing, is this what the Cybertruck is? It's just sort of this cultural symbol and but we don't actually sell many of them. What's the story here?
I mean, I think ever since the truck came out, it became this like cultural symbol, right? Because it doesn't look like your standard pickup truck. It does not look like a Ford F-150. And the design of it was very polarizing. And it's meant to be this kind of like, it's the truck for the apocalypse. It's supposedly bulletproof. It's very angular. It was inspired by Blade Runner. You could imagine driving this on the surface of Mars or the military using it. And the truth is that the Cybertruck has been saddled with all kinds of production problems. So it is not in high volume. It's a very niche product. Tesla has not disclosed when they report their quarterly production and delivery figures how many they're actually making. And we only kind of have a sense whenever there's a recall, like of how many are actually on the road. And it's not a lot. I mean, there's maybe, there's like thousands of them on the road, but we're not talking high volume at all. And then what happened this week was that this, warlord, there's Telegram video circulates and everyone's like, oh my God, did Elon Musk really donate a Cybertruck to this guy? And the answer is no. I mean, and Musk himself wrote, on X, are you seriously so retarded that you think I donated a Cybertruck to a Russian general? But how the Cybertruck got there is super interesting because it does seem like there's this either used Cybertrucks, being sent abroad or a black market for them or an aftermarket. And this could be in violation of sanctions, but it probably passed through several hands and then ended up, with this guy.
The best case scenario for the Cybertruck when it launched was that, and David, I think we talked about this, it becomes the Hummer, right? And it's like, yes, it's catchy. Yes, it's slightly trolly maybe, but in a way that has like mass market appeal. And like those examples you rattled off, right? This is not the Fox News demographic. Kanye West, essentially a proud anti-Semite, Chechen warlord. I mean, this is like so far right wing. It's obviously like losing a lot of appeal for most people. I also think it's part of the problem is just the price. Like this is
what does it go for now?
Well, right now it's like $100,000.
Yeah,
still.
and they just there was an option to buy a base model that is the 60,000 or so. Dana, correct me if I'm wrong, but they got rid of that. We're essentially talking about like $100,000 car, no matter what the cultural signifiers are, is a niche product. And then if you layer on the kind of weird, ultra right wing signaling on top of it, like it's a problem.
So this warlord showing it off as some badass weapon of war does nothing to lure in any kind of buyers of any kind.
I'm sure like militia types, I don't know, like car companies have used like the military applications.
Well, yeah, I mean, think for a second about the Toyota Tacoma.
Yeah.
Right? The Tacoma was, I believe, for many years, it was jerry-rigged by any number of militias and rebels in far-off places. And it kind of became a thing. It actually, they may have sold a lot for those purposes. But I always sort of got the sense that implicit in that was like they said, this thing is so badass and so rugged, it can stand up to war, imagine what it can do for you.
I think you just need to take a step back. Like, what does the average person buy a pickup truck for? It's for work. And then there are the people who like they need a pickup truck because they want to, throw their surfboards in the back or whatever. Well, if that's you, then you can buy a Rivian. I mean, if you look at the way that the Cybertruck is branded, it's not really aspirational for like the weekend contractor or the family that's going, camping at Glacier National Park. There are truck segments that kind of fit that market. The Cybertruck really is all about like being super tough and going like off-road and like going to Mars. And I mean, that's been clear from the beginning when they kind of rolled this out. I mean, Elon Musk demonstrated this vehicle by trying to like throw a steel ball at the window like breaking it with a sledgehammer, and so the way that they've positioned this vehicle has just been kind of strange from the get-go.
Exactly, but let me ask, playing devil's advocate here. Let me ask you two a question, which is, in a world in which you say, hey, no, all news is good news. No, whatever the news actually is, no news is bad news, and what if it's so much in the news, and every time you see one go by, heads turn. I've seen it in New York City when one of these things go by, heads turn, and people sort of start chatting. Maybe it's just a massive loss leader that is constantly throwing the Tesla name out there. Maybe they ultimately won't sell all that many of this thing, but I mean, it's certainly creating brand awareness, is it not, Dana?
Oh, absolutely. And over at the Thanksgiving break last year, they had Cybertrucks in showrooms all over the country surrounded by these like velvet ropes. And the whole point was to get like holiday shoppers to come into a showroom, see the Cybertruck, and then buy a Model Y. And, Tesla has not spent a lick of money on advertising for this vehicle, but you certainly know when you see a Cybertruck that it's made by Tesla.
I had entirely forgotten, Max, about that anecdote that Dana just brought up. But it is something, yeah, it's kind of exactly what I was thinking. Maybe, right, you've got this thing out there, not thinking that you're going to sell that many of them, but here's a why for you.
I mean, maybe, and I do think, look, you have to say, although the Cybertruck has not sort of been a success according to the metrics that Elon Musk originally set when he unveiled it, like it has sold well relative to other high-end electric pickups.
Like what?
Like the F-150 Lightning. It depends on the numbers you're looking at, but like it seems like the Cybertruck may now be outselling the F-150 Lightning, for instance. Yes. But again, these numbers are tiny. And it's because no one is buying these very, very expensive, relatively few people are buying these very, very expensive electric pickup trucks, whether they're made by Rivian or Tesla or Ford. And so in that sense, like, sure, yeah, maybe this is a really great loss leader, a great, brand statement, But first of all, I would question whether being associated, notwithstanding your point about the marketing prowess of the fact that like ISIS fighters use Toyota Hiluxes, I would question whether it's a great branding to have your product associated with a Russian warlord during a major international conflict. And also, pickup trucks sell a ton. It's like the biggest category of vehicle in the U.S. You don't want your pickup truck to just be a loss leader. You would like to, if you really trying to make a successful electric car company, you'd want to sell some freaking pickup trucks. And like that is not what's happening, right? For Tesla to be the kind of big mass market EV company that Elon sort of used to talk about.
And it's, longtime Tesla owners know, like, you don't ever really buy, like, the first wave of vehicles because there's going to be all these production kinks. You wait until they kind of figure it out, and the vehicles will get better as they kind of, like, work through these production issues. But, I wrote a story quite a while ago that said, like, the Cybertruck is in production hell, and, like, we are still in production hell. And so there's not like a huge appetite for these yet. People are waiting. They're waiting for these problems, and they're waiting for the price to come down. I mean, $100,000 in this kind of inflationary environment where interest rates are high, and if you have to finance a vehicle, the financing is very high, is a huge turnoff to a lot of people. It's a major, major purchase.
Okay, to wrap up, we're going to talk about, I should say we're going to go back to its military capabilities and back to the battlefield, because apparently the Chechen warlord, Kadyrov, says he's going to unleash it in Ukraine. He's going to essentially turn it over to Putin and let him use it in Ukraine.
Can I just say something about this branding argument you made earlier? Because like it's bothering me. Because like the random armies are using Toyota Tacomas. That was premised on the idea that these things were reliable. It's basically, this is everywhere, it's omnipresent.
Yeah.
Like, this Chechen guy wasn't using it on the battlefield.
Well, we're about to find out.
He was just driving around looking like a jerk. And in that sense, he looks like every other Cybertruck driver. And so, like,
You think every single Cybertruck driver's a jerk?
No, I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's a peacocking gesture. Like, it is not a, like, even, like, he's not showing off the capabilities of this thing. He's doing the thing that if you were going to criticize the Cybertruck, that it's just this showy, kind of goofy, like, manly, like, lame, Hummer-like thing. And that's how he was using it. Okay. Sorry.
All right. Now that you got that off your chest, when it goes to battle, how will it fare, Mr. Chafkin?
I don't even want to contemplate this, honestly. It's so gross and dark. And like the idea of, this Chechen warlord, using Elon Musk's midlife crisis vehicle on the battlefield. Like, I don't know. Like, my guess is it's going to be arrow-proof. But because we've seen Joe Rogan fail to shoot it with an arrow, but I would not have confidence in its military prowess.
Dana?
I mean, I will have to say, like, I do see a lot of Cybertrucks in California, more in LA than in the Bay Area. But, like, I could see it having military applications, I guess. I mean, but you still have to charge it. You'd have and supposedly it's arrow-proof, bulletproof. Is it like bomb-proof? I don't know. But I mean, Musk is part of the military-industrial defense complex. So, maybe he's trying to sell these to the Pentagon, and this sort of weird thing of this Chechen warlord happening to get his hands on one. Maybe that'll perk interest in some procurement office somewhere.
My best guess here is that when Zelensky makes the final push into Moscow, he will do so atop a Cybertruck.
Jesus Christ.
Max, Dana, thanks for joining.
Great to be here.
Anytime.
This episode was produced by Stacey Wong. Naomi Shavin and Rayhan Harmansi are our senior editors. The idea for this very show also came from Rayhan. Blake Maples handles engineering, and we get special editing assistance from David Purcell. Our supervising producer is Magnus Henriksen. The Elon Inc. theme is written and performed by Taka Yasuzawa and Alex Sugiura. Brendan Francis Newnham is our executive producer, and Sage Bauman is the head of Bloomberg Podcasts. A big thanks to our supporter, Joel Weber. I'm David Papadopoulos. If you have a minute, rate and review our show. It'll help other listeners find us. See you next week.